Hey, what is good, my fellow masters? I just wanted to briefly cover a couple of banners that are expected to drop soon, since there are some limited quick servants on them, and I could see some interest in them. Very shortly, we can expect to get a second Tam Lin Cup pickup summon banner featuring Charlemagne. Or I suppose it should be Charlemagne, or something like that. Charlemagne. I'll just stick to Charlemagne. This cool-looking swordsman, famed for being the king of the legendary 12 paladins, among other things, is a quick-based AoE saber. A limited servant, Charlemagne was introduced to NA just this year, debuting back in May. Some key things that I like about his kit: he has some defensive support utility with a targetable invincibility that protects for 2 attacks, and he gains a nice NP gen buff if the invincibility is used on an ally. Charlemagne has a good range for his offensive buffs, a party-wide attack increase, plus a boost to his own quick cards and crit damage. Then there are a couple of trait effects. He'll do more damage to demonic enemies, he'll gain defense against divinity enemies, and he will do more crit damage versus evil alignment targets. His AoE MP can dish out damage, which will increase based on the number of heroic king states he has stacked, and those king states come from a buff on defense effect from one of his skills. Its overcharge is a debuff effect to all enemies' quick resistance. Charlemagne can be used to very good effect for farming, given he has a 30% NP battery to complement his skill-activated NP generation. And his quick-based NP is 12 hits, one of the highest in the game, if not the highest, allowing him to refund plenty of NP. Effective enough that he's capable of using a Black Rail CE to farm, given the right supports and enemy wave format. But just beyond farming, in longer types of battles, Charlemagne can leverage his buff on defense effect of stacking up those heroic king traits, thus allowing his NP to deal out greater damage. And this could feed into a cycle of ever-increasing damage output with his NP OC effect of reducing the quick resistance of targets. Note he will get a skill rank up in the future that grants him heroic king stacks whenever he dishes out a critical hit. All in all, I'd say he is a very good unit to have if you were looking to add an AoE SSR Saber to your roster and missed out on him the first time. Naturally, one should have at least either version of Scotty as well to really make Charlemagne shine. But as an alternative, if you prefer arts or have a roster primarily focused on arts, then come this early December, Senji Muramasa will be on Raid Up. And he offers wonderful NP looping capability with his 50% NP battery, along with a few tools for higher difficulty battles. That said, if Charlemagne is your man, but the timing just doesn't work for you right now, I myself am in this boat, we will have another opportunity to roll for him in March 2026. Sharing this banner with Charlemagne are 2 members of his 12 paladins. We have the permanent SSR Lancer Bradamante. This earnest and virtuous knight possesses an AoE quick MP that has some arguably questionable angles in its animation, but I'm here for it. Bradamante's skill set is fairly straightforward with a bit of NP charge support. She can buff her own primary cards of quick and arts for a few turns, she can raise her defense and has a guts effect for emergencies, then the aforementioned NP charge support in the form of a targetable 20% NP battery that comes with a debuff removal, which can come in handy for those debuff heavy battles that come up. Bradamante's MP has a couple of extra effects, like a 60% chance to stun and a 20% debuff to the target's chance to land a critical. The overcharge effect is a 1-turn buff to her MP damage that scales with the OC level. Now, I think Bradamante was always a bit of a hard sell in the AoE Quick Lancer category, mainly due to the overall performance comparisons to the permanent SR Lancer's Parvati, and maybe to a lesser degree, Valkyrie. Now for this banner, Bradamante is competing with fellow SSR Britomart for your SQ. And if you were not tempted to roll for Britomart, then, well, Bradamante is unlikely to change that. If you do have Britomart, congrats by the way, then there is no reason to roll for Bradamante either. The good news for Bradamante fans is that she will get 2 rank ups in the future that really augment her kit. Expected next July is a skill rank up that vastly improves her quick looping potential, with an additional NP generation effect, plus the targetable NP charge is increased from 20 to 30%, giving her the possibility to start with a 50% charge at the beginning of the battle with a max mana loading append. She also gets more usability with a niche against the Earth attribute doing an extra 30% damage to those types of enemies. Then she will eventually get an NP rank up. That will obviously do more damage overall, but it also provides an additional effect of boosting Bradamante's crit damage for a few turns. So, since these buffs are a ways away, then it's perfectly fine to wait and roll for Bradamante when she comes back around. And that's pretty much every Valentine's event that comes each February. She will also have a banner in April 2025 as well. Assuming, of course, she's someone that you're interested in. The second of Charlemagne's paladins on this banner is the permanent SR Saber Roland. This knight with a habit of occasionally becoming clothing optional, much to Astolfo's amusement, is a single target buster unit. Originally making his game debut with his king Charlemagne, Roland has a lot of things I like to see in a unit, but with some relatively minor demerits built in, just to add some quirkiness to fit his personality, I suppose. He's capable of boosting both his attack and buster cards. Roland has two separate NP batteries, one charging for 20% and the other a 10% charge, providing him with some flexibility when it comes to filling up his NP gauge. He has a one-turn invincibility for emergencies. He can remove his own debuffs and simultaneously remove the buffs from all enemies, a feature I really like in his kit. Though this comes with the demerit of reducing Roland's charm resistance, so maybe keep him away from the likes of Maeve, Kama, Steno, you know the types. Roland also has a way to supply himself with crit stars and buff his star absorption for a turn. His MP can ignore invincibility, useful for higher difficulty battles, and the overcharge effect can buff his critical damage for a few turns, in addition to the boost to attack I mentioned earlier. Overall, I think Roland can be well suited for gimmicky battles, though in terms of NP damage output, if you already have one of the Welfare Sabers at MP5, then Roland will be behind at lower MP levels, and one of those Welfare ST Sabers will be available again this coming December. Since Roland is permanent, there's not really a large amount of pressure to roll for him, in my opinion, unless he's husbando material to you, of course. But if he just refuses to show up in a spook, then there is another chance to roll for him in March 2026. The other banner with the limited quick servant I alluded to is the Singularity Repair Support Campaign Prison Tower banner, featuring the SSR Avenger Edmond Dantès. This Gurako-obsessed broody Dream Realm Guardian was the premier AoE quick looping servant back in the era of Scotty's support domination. And while he may not be considered the best universal AoE looper any longer, Dantès can still hold his own and even has been improved with a couple of rank ups. He was given an NP charge of up to 30% to complement his multi-turn NP generation buff of a substantial 50%. For battles outside of farming, Dantès has a skill-based one-turn ignore invincibility effect that also provides a big boost to his attack for a turn. And he can contribute a little bit to stalling with an ability to reduce a target's NP gauge that also provides a debuff removal for himself, along with a supply of crit stars. Not that Dantès will be short of stars, what with his 8-hit AoE quick MP, and furthermore his NP will also inflict a combination of curse damage and defense reduction to all targets. If you're looking for an AoE Avenger to add to your roster and you already have Scotty, then Dantès is a good choice. Though if Arts is more your thing, then you may want to consider waiting for Nitocris Alter, who comes out with Lost Belt 7. Her overall MP damage is less than Dantès, but she has a couple of advantages like a 100% NP battery and a niche versus enemies with the man attribute. But if ultimately it's just a matter of bad timing, then not to worry, as Dantès will have a couple more rate-ups in the future, one in March 2025 and the other following a year later in March 2026. Oh, and don't forget that Dantès will get a new interlude released with his banner and under special unlock conditions. With the Lotto event going on, it might be easy to forget and miss this chance at a possible 2 to 4 SQ. At any rate, so ends another banner overview. Will you be rolling on either of these, or sticking to saving maybe for the upcoming Lost Belt 6 or Lost Belt 7 servants? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this, please do remember to give it a thumbs up to help out the channel. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, cheers!